so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness, which creates and animates all things. Now, of course, understanding this powerful truth is one thing. Applying this incredibly empowering wisdom to everyday life, well, that's another. Which is exactly why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week to help constantly remind you of what matters most. You are it. And I'm your host, Brandon Beecham. I'm the reflection and extension of you who will be here each Wednesday interviewing a different consciousness changemaker. And on the other 4 weekdays, leading the way to ensure that your perspective is consistently expanded, your vibration is constantly elevated, and your heart is overflowing and full. Also, this episode of the Positive Head Podcast is being brought to you thanks to the support of Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online, and you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. Hello? Is this thing on? Hello, who's here? Me? Hi, Positive Heads. Hey, it's me, Brendan. I'm here, and today, some things we're going to talk about. Sorry, guys. Sorry, just feeling a little crazy today. Having kind of you talk to yourself enough times in, a garage that's converted into a studio, and you start to get a little crazy. Come on, just bear with me, guys. So today I want to talk about the idea of being crazy a little bit, or personality disorders or mental disorders, or this is a topic that's come up a bunch of times, and not making light of any of it other than making light of myself, because I am a little crazy sometimes. And so I also want to bring levity to the subject, obviously. We're going to talk about disorders and whatnot. And this is something that we've talked about, like I said before, multiple times. And I feel like it's something that will circle back around time and time again because it is such a prevalent topic. You've got so much depression and, suicidal tendencies and, different, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder. All these things pop up and people are diagnosed with these labels and carry these stories around, and they sort of affect everything about your life. And so this is something that, like I said, we've talked about many times before. I'm sure we'll talk about many times again. Before I jump into this whole conversation, I would like to read a review. So this review came in by Miranda B94 on iTunes, and it's titled "That Girl" in quotes. So here it goes. So the reason I started listening is all because of this girl I met at a party in 2011. I know it sounds silly, but let me explain. I walked into a room with a handful of people in it, but I'm immediately drawn to this girl I've never met. She was beaming with white light. She was so genuinely kind and warm, and I had never experienced anything like it. From that moment on, I always thought, I want to be like that girl. Long story short, years later, I stumbled upon this podcast and had finally forgotten the desire of being that girl. After about a year of listening, learning, and practicing, I realized that in a lot of ways, I am now my own version of that girl. And what she had back then that I didn't was self-love. That's why she was beaming. Thank you, Brandon, and my fellow P-heads for providing me with the tools to live my best life. Love and gratitude, Miranda. Now, Miranda, thank you for sharing that wonderful story. I absolutely love it. I it not only does, of course, the reviews make me excited because they help us to reach new people, but getting, a story like that and knowing that I have in any way played a role in your own choice to transform into that girl is absolutely wonderful. And it's an honor to play a role. That being said, what's really interesting about this and this review coming in is the topic that I want to talk about. Now, there was a question post in the Positive Heads Facebook group by Miranda as well. I don't know if it's the same Miranda. I'm assuming there's a good chance it is the same Miranda that posted in the Facebook group. The interesting thing is the difference between, it could very well be different people because what they're posting is very different. So either way, there's certainly some major synchronicity if it's a different Miranda. If it's the same Miranda, well, that works too. There's much to talk about here, so I'm going to dive right in. Miranda wrote yesterday on the Positive Heads Facebook group. And by the way, if you guys aren't on there, feel free to join up. We would love to have you join up. It's a great place to connect with other listeners, ask questions like Miranda did here. I'm about to read. And then, also we have it private so that you can open up about things you might not otherwise want to open up to the rest of the world. Miranda said, I would love some enlightenment opinions on an issue. I'll try to keep it short. I am diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Though I agree with the diagnosis based on the criteria, I try not to look too far into symptoms or ailments regarding the disorder in fear of manifesting them. Do you P-heads think that through vibrational work I could essentially be cured? And then she edited, I am also well educated on the disorder, but I'm also careful not to manifest symptoms. My original wording may have come off a bit ignorant, but I just wanted to start a conversation of mental health and spirituality. Now, first off, Miranda, I want to throw out a couple episodes where we talked about this in the past. One is episode 245. We talk about shamanic perspectives on mental illness. 306 with Daniel Raphael, who was diagnosed with everything under the sun, as a child. And he's been a guest on the show a few times, actually, and doing amazing things, having worked through all the labels and diagnosis that he received. And then episode 540 with Karis, not too long ago. I believe we talked about this as well. So I just want to throw those out right up the top to anyone who is listening. Now, as far as the question that Miranda posed, I wanted to chime in on this because, once again, this is one that just continues to circle, and I think it will continue to circle. It's such an important one. And I guess I get somewhat coming from a family where my mother was a twin, and her twin, who I never met, who died just before my birth, a few years, was, mentally ill. He was, had the mental capacity of like a 2-year-old. My mom, of course, being not, quote unquote normal, whatever that is. And, in my family, my nephew has Asperger's syndrome. So they say, I've had a lot of that sort of stuff around me. So it always is, and then an aunt as well who lives in a special home, and then my child's mother. So a lot of mental illness around, or supposed mental illness around me. And, even me at the top of the show, I was feeling a little crazy. So I like to make fun in a good way to bring levity. First off, obviously, I'm not a doctor, and Miranda or anyone, you guys, if you want to consult with a traditional doctor, by all means, you should do that. But I do have very strong opinions about this idea. First, do you think you can be cured? I'm not so sure there's something wrong with you to begin with. So I'll start there. So yes, I believe you could be cured if there's something wrong. And is there something wrong? I don't know. I think I have disorders too. I've just decided. I've labeled myself. Because I can. I've decided to get a doctorate within my own mind and heart, and then label myself. I have bipolar in order. It's very similar to bipolar disorder, but it's bipolar. And I just, what I think this means is I'm becoming more cosmic and getting in touch with my higher self. So that's the bi part. So I think I have bipolar. Do any of you guys have bipolar in order? I also think I am borderline person out of body recorder. It's kind of like borderline personality disorder, but it's different because I'm really working hard at having out-of-body experiences. So I'm borderline person out of body. And of course, I'll be able to record it if I remember it. So yeah, those are my disorders that I've come up with for myself. And maybe we can come up with some others. Or I don't call them disorders. They're inorders, right? Or recorders. So my point being, all of these labels these are what worry me the most or scare me the most when people say, I agree to this. And, just be really, really careful with these ideas that, you're broken in some way. And if it is the same Miranda that wrote this review and wrote this question, like, look at how wonderful that review was, how insightful this, correlation to the girl in 2011 that left an imprint on her soul, and she has now manifested that. I mean, this is a beautiful review coming from someone who's obviously very put together and gifted, or has that part of themselves, okay? For sure, obviously, right? This person is sane and inspiring, actually, right? So we all are composite beings. We have these different parts of ourselves at different times. So I have moments when I talk to myself and I'm thinking, oh, wow, I just realized I'm talking to myself. You're crazy, and then I laugh at that because that's just some made up idea. But, and of course I'm talking to myself right now, right? So these are all, I've heard it said before, if we could see everyone's, inside everyone's mind, we'd realize everyone's like right on the brink of this crazy description, this box that doctors want to put people in and label it and stamp it. And now you got this, and oh, here come the meds. And that part is a little frightening too. So, anyone who wrote that review is got a very, very sane, beautiful streak. And if you ever have a moment where you're feeling crazy, and the best thing that you can do is know that we're composite beings and start giving as much attention to that which you want to see more of, right? And downplaying these labels. I would, really abracadabra, right? As I speak, I create. And so, have bipolar in order with me, or borderline person out of body recorder. Let's have those instead. I made those up. We can use them. No one says we can't. So, just be really, really careful with saying, when you make a statement, I agree with the diagnosis. It's like, just be really careful, because you're now taking on that story. You're labeling yourself as that, and you're really much more than any label. You're a multifaceted being that has all sorts of parts of yourself. Some maybe that need healing, some that are very advanced, some that, all these different things are going on within you. And let's just focus on all the best parts and bringing love to the parts that, are weird or crazy, or, I'll have a thought sometimes. So a crazy moment. So I don't really smoke marijuana very often these days. I did when I was younger, but when I do, and one of the reasons I don't is because sometimes when I smoke it, you can hear, you hear this sort of idea that it can make you paranoid or anything. I don't really get paranoid, but I'll feel uncomfortable maybe about things or something that I said or did more so. And then I'll have a weird outside thought about it. And when that happens, what I'll do is I'll observe it. Oh, that's kind of a weird or insecure or crazy thought. And then I'll just say, oh, but I love myself anyway. Right? And bringing love to it just transmutes it every time. So loving these parts of yourself, being really careful with these labels. And, speaking of labels, here's a great example of someone that I always share on the show. Esther Hicks, Abraham. I mean, what is she diagnosed with, right? Schizophrenia? Is this, probably schizophrenia. Hearing voices in your head, right? Oh my gosh, we need to medicate her. We need to put her away, put her in a straitjacket. No, she's healing lives, right? She is. So, and she even says, I'm going to share a clip here in a minute. She goes, well, guys, you know what? It's all talking about a schizophrenia at one point, and she's like, oh, well, that's cool because I have schizophrenia too. Like it's a good thing. And she's sort of, making light of it in a good way, right? And so bring levity to this topic and realize that you are a composite being. You've got all sorts of parts of yourself, and you are able absolutely to heal, and she asked, can I cure? That's what we're here to do, is heal and grow and expand. And so, yeah, there is no this label that someone, I mean, if it was a few hundred years ago, these same doctors that you're consulting and giving you these labels would say you're a witch and you need to be burned at the stake. I mean, so these guys are like really stumbling in the dark a lot of times, especially when it gets to these more subtle things. This isn't like a broken arm or broken leg that's very physical and very, identified. We're talking about consciousness and the subtleties of consciousness. And this is where anyone listening to the show has really got a leg up on making the most of any of these sorts of situations, because you understand it's all vibrational in nature and you get to decide what vibration you are resonating with in any given moment, right? And that's where all the power lies. You can call in anything that you want, and that includes sanity. So whatever that is. So with that said, I'm going to play a little clip here from someone with schizophrenia. As you can see, she is very schizophrenic as she talks to a multidimensional entity that refers to itself as Abraham through her physical form. Here's Esther Hicks. This is Schizophrenia and Other Mental Conditions. I found it on the We Are One YouTube page. We Are One TV YouTube page. Take a listen.
Such a teacher, and I've learned so much in the last year. Thank you. Here's my question. I have a friend who's schizophrenic and locked up and in prison for something he had done. And literally, from my perspective, from doctors' perspectives, out of his mind, I'm able to hear what you're saying and discern and make choices. My question is, and I've thought about this a lot this week, to ask you, what about those individuals that are perceived to be mentally, emotionally incapable of making decisions to what feels good and what does not? And what I got from earlier is to hold him in the space of light and love and whole and complete from listening to you today. Meanwhile, he's got his life, and how can I'll just leave it right at that.
The most difficult thing to try to do, no one ever does a very good job of it, but it's a very difficult thing to try to do, is to don someone else's perspective. In other words, almost everyone tries to superimpose how they would feel in a given situation. And of course, when you think about his lack of freedom or the way he's perceived, it would be intolerable to you, but it's not as intolerable to him as it is to you. In other words, let's see if we can come around this from a different direction. The analogy that we use most often is, imagine that you've traveled to an underdeveloped, by your standards, country where the lifestyle is very different from your own. And you cannot leave behind your perspective of how life could be, because you've been living with modern conveniences and services and cleanliness and abundance, and to step into a world that is far different from that would be startling to you. So when you view the people who live there, your perspective of their life is very different than their perspective of their life. And they are often much happier in their life than you would be in their life. And often, and this is the part we really want you to hear, they're often happier in their life than you are in your own life. In other words, because we said earlier, if your desire is here and your vibration is here, you're uncomfortable. If your desire is here and your vibration is here, you're not uncomfortable. Now, let's begin, because there are a lot of things rumbling in this question, but let's begin with the concept of schizophrenia to begin with. There are a lot of versions of what you call dementia or disorder or out of your mind, but a very common thread in all of them is that when life has caused you to become something and you haven't figured out how to let it be, there's discord within you that you almost can't bear. And often a sort of other perspective is born in this. It's like who you are keeps calling you forth, and if there is a very resistant personality that won't allow you to go, often another personality emerges to go. Does that make sense to you? In other words, your desire to be free is so powerful. And if you are in an environment where you perceive that your freedom is being quelled or disallowed, that desire to be free just keeps spurting out in another way and in another way and in another way. And realists, or people who believe that they are rational, it's a bigger subject than just a friend who seems to be out of his mind. What is at the basis of this is an innate understanding that you are free, living in a society that doesn't see you as free. And some who have very fast-moving energy just find other ways of getting around that. And these multiple personalities is often one of those ways. If you were to take any child and at an early age convince them that they were deprived of freedom, one of two things will happen. Either they will acquiesce to it, or they won't. If they acquiesce to it, your society thinks they have succeeded in helping a child to conform into a behavior that is healthy. But if they are not able to get them to conform, then society claims that they have a renegade child. And we're just saying to you that at the heart of all of this dementia are renegade children, where a part of them has been forced to conform, but another part of them didn't.
That's big.
It is big. And most important, when you're looking at someone like that, now let's get to the heart of your question. What could you do to soothe? Well, understanding it helps. And taking them out of your mind, in your mind, taking them out of the category of deformed, or out of the category of something wrong with them, and beginning to acknowledge them from this understanding that they have evolved to something that their belief that they learned from society wouldn't let them evolve to, and so they sort of took an end run around that. And as you know that and hold the whole of them in your perspective, you may very well be one of those satellite dishes that we were talking about earlier that beams in a signal that they can pick up on. Esther had the good fortune between college semesters one summer to work at a mental hospital. And she went there. It was in the town where her sister lived, and she was staying with her sister, and so it just seemed like a convenient job. But right away, Esther felt uncomfortable, not for the reason you might think. She was uncomfortable because the majority of people who were locked up in there were not different than the majority of the people that were not locked up out there. And in the majority of cases, she was not able to discern any reasonable reason for them being there. And what we want you to begin to do in your own mind is blur the lines between those that have been assigned the label of inappropriate or disordered in some way. Blur that line and begin to see everyone as the source within them sees them, as extensions of source, exploring contrast and giving birth to desire. And then understand that the people that have the hardest time in your environment are those people who hit the ground running, whose streams are moving really fast, who were in an environment where they were not, from their perspective, allowed to move with the speed of their stream. That is the best description that we could ever give of the person that you are talking about. And you know from your own personal experience that if your perception of your freedom is threatened, it's like having a pillow pressed to your face. You do almost anything, even irrational things. And there are a lot of people that are sort of fighting against a perceived power. And it's interesting to watch this nation as many of you are beginning to beat the drums of your fear of your eroding of freedom, and we want you to, instead of beating the drum of an erosion of freedom, instead to acknowledge, as we do, that you are all casting your vibrational votes, and that there are no laws and no rules and no enforcers of rules. There is no one who surrounds you who has the power to keep you from your freedom, because your freedom is a vibrational basis over which you have control. So the best thing that you can do for anyone is thrive. And in those extreme cases, the best thing that you can do for them is thrive and find your alignment before you hold them as your object of attention. And if you will do the very unique thing, and it will be unique, which is to see them through the eyes of Source rather than through the eyes of society, you're going to find out that you have more in common with them than you want to. Because all they are is an exaggerated version of someone whose stream is going really fast, who has chronic thought and now manifestation that keeps them from going in the direction of the stream. And if you know him well enough, tell him that you have a good friend named Abraham who is also schizophrenic. Meaning we have many perspectives that are merging. In other words, we are not one mind, we are not one thinker. We are a cumulative collection, culmination of consciousness. And you are all that yourselves. Your society does not want you to be that. Your society wants you to be static and singular and compliant. And it is not your nature.
Thank you so much.
So some really, really good insight here, guys. I hope you think so. I definitely do. I mean, if you take a child away, take away their freedom, they're looked at as sick if they don't conform to it, and then are considered a renegade child, right? That's what's, I mean, I thought a lot during this talk that Abraham was giving here about my child's mother and how fast her stream is moving and how she is resistant and sort of fighting back. In her head, it all makes sense. It all is rational, you know, and someone who would write this review certainly is not anywhere near the level of someone who maybe is really, really slipped out of alignment and is, you know, as a result is locked up somewhere or something like that. But you know, at the heart of all disorders here, she said, is a renegade child. And if you can start to blur the lines, get rid of these boxes that are ridiculous. You know, we'll look back on these boxes where we try and say this is exactly this or this is exactly that. It's, you know, it's like the song I played not too long ago. It's not a black and white world. It's gray, right? The live song I played last week. Blur the lines. See everyone as extensions of Source, exploring, contrasting, giving birth to their desire. They're, you know, the quote unquote insane people, their streams are moving fast and they weren't allowed to move with the speed of their stream, she said. And I think this whole breakdown, because this is a very tricky thing to break down and understand, makes a whole lot of sense. And of course, you know, they're oftentimes fighting against the perceived power, very much my child's mother, fighting against the perceived power, you know, and once this is just the course that it can really, when you stay out of alignment and you keep resonating with these things that are out of alignment, whether it be a perceived power or the idea that you're sick or any of these things, then they of course grow and grow and grow. And that's what we want to get away from here is let's turn our attention towards all the wonderful things that you have to do and offer. And if anything's popping up, it is there for your healing. It absolutely can be cured. Your freedom comes from a vibrational basis on which you have control. You know, what a powerful thing. The freedom, the ability to heal, it all comes from a vibrational basis of which you have control. And when you're interacting with someone who is, you know, been labeled mentally ill. Thrive, find your alignment, she says, and see them through the eyes of Source. The more you see this more holistic view of everything, starting with yourself, through the eyes of Source, the more sense it's all going to make. All the crazy complexities of this world and the variations in our personalities, and times when we're riding high and times when we're riding low, and sometimes we're this and sometimes we're that. We're different people all the time, right? So congratulations, Miranda. We're all a bit crazy and have disorders in order, perfectly imperfect, all the things. It's been wonderful to connect with you guys. I hope this helps bring a little sanity or craziness to your day, both, whichever you prefer. And funny enough, so I was looking for a song. Little tad synchronicity. Another person that I thought of when I was, recording this, or listening to rather the Abraham clip, I thought of an ex-girlfriend of mine, not my child's mother, named Mandy, maybe 7-8 years ago, something like that now. And wonderful person, wonderful woman. We didn't really end up it was one of my shorter relationships, like 6 months or so. And part of the thing is she's very manic. She had such a fast moving stream, so much energy, so fiery. But this manic energy of fear, just fear of what's to come, right? And that so often cripples people. What am I going to do? What am I going to do when I get out of college? What am I going to do with this? How do I handle this? And it's just like manic, 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 manic. So it's funny, I thought of her, and, her name was Mandy, not so far from Miranda. And I was searching for the Seal song, Crazy. I love Seal. I love the song Crazy. Well, what comes up but Mandy's old favorite band, who I haven't heard in years and years and years, they did a cover of Seal's Crazy. And with that, I'm going to leave you with Yesayer, the song Crazy, Seal cover. Hope you enjoy. Until next time, love you all. Also, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Gaia, which is my personal go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear me constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place I know of to do it, period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out.
After 7 years, what he goes there for is to unlock the door. But those around him criticize and speak. And through a fracture on that breaking wall, I see you, my friend, touch your face again.